All right, thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to go ahead and get started. If you are joining me live, I would love for you to drop a comment below what you believe living a focused, driven life is all about. That is what we're going to be talking about today is what is a focus-driven life? It's my branding. It's the name of my YouTube page. I've got a Facebook page here called Focus Driven Life. But what is it? What does that even mean? Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Georgia Davis. I am coming to you live from beautiful, scenic northern Utah, where we are experiencing just a little bit of winter. Not very much, just enough to remind us that it is winter and it is cold outside. All of our snow is gone. We're back to rain, which I won't complain about. We do have snow in the mountains. It is beautiful. The mountains are gorgeous when there is snow on them for sure. Check out my YouTube video where I took a hike up one of the local mountains. There's not a lot of scenery to see there, but check out that YouTube video. It's really good. Actually, I will make a note to drop that in the comments. Give me just one moment. YouTube video on hiking. I'll go ahead and drop that. Actually, it may not have even posted yet. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. I am excited to share just a little about how I came up with Focus Driven Life, what it is, what it means, and share just a little bit of my story with you. Focus Driven Life was born out of difficulty, trial, challenges, and overwhelming circumstances. And hopefully I don't get emotional today because this ties very closely to my path, and it was really born out of having no other path or hope for where my life was going. And I was in a really, really difficult period of life. And difficulties that I didn't even realize were coming at the time. Back in the beginning of 2021, I decided I had to do something different, that what I was doing was not making me happy. And the job that I have wasn't making me happy, although I did find a lot of joy in it and the work that I was doing. I had a federal job. Little did I know how federal employment was going to change, but I knew that I had to figure out something else for my life. I was struggling with anxiety, depression, debilitating anxiety and depression. There were days I didn't want to get up. I still had a job, but I was calling in sick a lot. The environment that I was working in was not healthy for me. It was very negative. And I sometimes had to do things that I didn't feel were in line with my ethics or integrity. And so there were days that it was very difficult. And I'm a huge advocate for the people that I work with and around. And so being in an environment where I almost was forced into cognitive dissonance situations where I felt like what I was being asked to do versus what I felt like was the right way to act or behave was not in alignment. Have you experienced that? Have you experienced it in a job or a situation where you just felt like the path that you were going did not feel in alignment with what you felt was right and held integrity for you, and how difficult and uncomfortable that feels? I was feeling that on a regular basis. I was so overwhelmed. I had symptoms of PTSD that I was dealing with from my past, supporting the depression that I was in. I was consumed with these things. So if you've ever felt anxiety, depression, PTSD, something else where you felt like you just couldn't make certain decisions because of what you were feeling and you couldn't even necessarily figure out why, you just felt so stuck and in this situation where you felt helpless. The feeling of helplessness is one of the most uncomfortable, painful experiences emotions, feelings that I've ever had in my entire life. Even more than depression, even more than anxiety, even more than my responses to my own PTSD experiences. This was one of the most difficult things that I think I've ever had to deal with in my life. And I didn't see any clear path forward. I just saw that I was working and getting more and more entrenched in these feelings, feeling trapped, feeling stuck, feeling like I wasn't looking down a tunnel with a light at the other end. I was looking into a very dark, black, cold cave, and I couldn't get out of it. And that was my only path, is walking into this dark, black cave, which was creating the debilitating sides of the anxiety and PTSD that I was experiencing, the depression. And I just knew that I had to do something different. And without even realizing that was going on, I just had this gut feeling, Georgia, you have to do something different. It doesn't matter what it is, but you have to do something different. You have to find another path. There's something better and greater out there for you. And even though what I had was reliable and stable and this sense of security, it was not secure. And as I've looked back, I can see how insecure the positions were that I was actually in, and that they really weren't secure at all. And I didn't even realize it was going to get worse, but it got significantly worse over the next several years, both at home in what I was dealing with the stress, with the legal system, with trying to fight for and protect my children from a situation that wasn't healthy for them, but me not being necessarily being healthy myself, and just knowing I had to do something different. So at the beginning of 2021, I started looking at other options, and I didn't really take a lot of active action, and it wasn't really until the beginning of 2023 that I was like, okay, here's the line. I am going to start actively looking for something else. I've been saying that I'm not okay with this. I've been saying that what's happening is not good for me, and yet I haven't done anything about it, even though I wanted to do something different about it. Do you ever get stuck in that like flow of life too, where it's just this cyclical cycle where you know you have to do something different, but you just keep doing the same thing over and over again? You have the awareness, but you're not quite sure what to do, and you're just stuck in this, and you're just ruminating in it, and eventually become so uncomfortable that you can't help it, but you have to do something different. So 2 years later, from 2021, early 2023, I'm like, okay, it's time. It's time for me to do something different, Georgia. Like, you can't keep going down this path that you're going on. And so I decided I'm going to do something different. And I started recording myself almost every day. And I started posting those to YouTube. I didn't know where else to go. I didn't know what else my other options I had, but I decided that's what I was going to do. So I started researching and listening to what I call the greats, those who have been successful, those who have found a path and made it work for them. And I love Jim Rohn, and I came across Jim Rohn, and I started researching and listening to Jim Rohn, and I was like, I wonder if there's a Jim Rohn today that I could start patterning my actions and behaviors off of. And I came across Grant Cardone. And then I came across this, his marketing system, and I'm like, maybe I can go into marketing. Well, I don't really love marketing, but if you're going into business for yourself, you have to have some kind of grasp or understanding about marketing. So I took his marketing course, and it actually was really good. And I'm like, what else can I do with this? How can I take these pieces and these things that I'm listening from Jim Rohn and Earl Nightingale and Brian Tracy and Grant Cardone and Bob Proctor, and how can I make them work for me? How can I change my life in such a way that I wake up and I don't feel like I'm stuck into something that I don't have any control over? And I started writing out my goals every single day, and I started focusing on what I wanted instead of where I was. And I started seeing more for myself. And people around me were like, Georgia, you're crazy. You can't do that. Stay with your reliable 9-to-5 job, working as a federal employee. Like, you're not going to find something better than this. And you know what? If you're looking for stability and you're looking for somebody to take care of everything else, that's absolutely right. Federal employment was ideal for the safety and security that I was looking for over 8 years. It was a great job. But with being an employee, you don't get to make a lot of choices. You don't necessarily get to choose when you work, when you don't, when you have time off, when you don't. And when you put yourself into a position where you're more self-employed, you get control over all of those things. Now, I'm not 100% self-employed right now, but I am in the respect that I make my own schedule. I choose when I want to work and when I don't. I choose what my day looks like. I choose how things come into play in my day. I choose who I connect with and who I don't. And this is a huge, huge advantage if you are looking for independence and being able to run your own schedule. And one of the first pieces of advice that I really started looking at was you need to own your own business and or you need to get into sales. So I'm like, okay, I can start figuring out my own business. But all of this was really the theme that I started with was rise above your circumstances. And this was a constant, consistent thought that just kept going through my mind over and over and over. Okay, how do I rise above my circumstances? Okay, I feel really crappy today. How do I rise above this feeling? And I just continue to feel really crappy. And I'm like, okay, it doesn't matter how I feel first thing in the morning. How do I rise above this feeling? How do I get past the debilitating depression? How do I get past the debilitating anxiety? How do I work through feeling stuck and feeling powerless and feeling like the justice system isn't listening to me and feeling like the justice system is wronging me over and over and over because I was so stuck in those thoughts and it was really hard to get out of them. I was just so stuck. Like the justice system isn't listening to me. I can't help my children in a way that I feel like I need to be helping them. And whether or not I helped them, I was stuck in that feeling and in that thought process. And when you get stuck on this merry-go-round, the cyclical cycle of repeating the same thought over and over and over and over, it turns from a thought that you have into self-abuse. Because you're holding yourself in this negative thought pattern, in this negative thought process. And I'm not a psychologist. This is just my own personal experience. When you get stuck in these patterns of thoughts that are negative, it starts to weigh you down. It adds to the depression. It adds to the anxiety. It adds to the negative ways that you treat and think about yourself. And you wouldn't allow somebody else to treat you that way. You wouldn't allow somebody else to talk to you in the ways that we often talk to ourselves when we get in those negative thought patterns. And it becomes abusive. So here's an example. Some of how I handle it. I have these negative thought patterns. And then I don't want to work out. And then I don't want to spend time outside. So then I'm spending time inside where it's darker. And then I don't want the curtains open. I'm okay with them being closed. I'm okay with being, in the basement and downstairs. And then I start looking for comfort. And then I start eating foods that are unhealthy for me, that I should be eating occasionally, but not all the time. And then because I'm eating foods that are unhealthy for me, and I'm not drinking water, and I'm not feeding myself good thoughts, now I start to become even more negative and more depressed and more anxiety because I'm giving myself food that my body is not helping my body. And so now my body feels crappy and my thoughts feel crappy and I physically feel crappy. So of course, what's going to happen? I'm going to have more negative thoughts. I'm going to do more negative things towards myself. Even if I'm smiling and I'm happy and I cook a good meal, I'm still feeding myself physically, mentally, and emotionally these negative thoughts. And so how I got over that was listening to all of these different successful people being like, you can't focus on the negativity. You have to focus on where you want to be. And you have to constantly be redirecting your thoughts and reframing things so that you can focus on where you want to be. You can send out the energy of where you want to be and what you want and elevate that vibration so that you start attracting these things that are good for you and that are positive for you. And so you start attracting things that are going to help and support you to get to where you want to be and rise out of, rise above your circumstances. And I kind of like mulled on that for a little while. And I'm like, rise above your circumstances. I really like that. And I went with that for a while. And then I was like, but that's not really saying what I'm doing. I'm really living a life where I'm focusing and driving towards what I want in life. And as this continued to develop and change and improve, I started to see that I was living a focused, driven life. And when I would start to have these negative thought patterns creep in, and I would start to either belittle myself or just ruminate on the negativity, I was like, wait a minute, stop. Georgia, stop thinking about these things because this is what you've been doing and it doesn't work and it's not helping you. So focus on where you want to be. Okay, I want to help people. I want to get to a point where I'm making residual income and I want to have a remote job and I want to be able to make good money and help people at the same time. How can I do that? Okay, I need to keep grinding forward with what I'm doing. I need to keep focusing on writing down my goals and focusing on where I want to be. And I just need to keep writing these things down. And I need to, improve my communication and improve my thought process and keep focusing on studying how to help people, how to coach people out of where they are, because this is my number one experience, figuring out how to get to where I am to where I want to be. And I've done this over and over and over in my life since I was very young. I've done this kind of subconsciously without even thinking about it. I've been focusing on where I wanted to be. When I was a teenager, I learned how to set effective goals and how to accomplish those goals and then set new goals to get to new achievements. And I've had this pattern over and over in my life. And as an adult, as things have gotten difficult and overwhelming, I've kind of like let those things slip to the side. But as soon as I brought those things back, it had a huge impact on me. And when I noticed that I was doing this, I remember being on a hike above where I live. And I was on this hike and I was walking and I was taking pictures and I was video recording part of the trail. And I recognized that I started thinking negative. Dang it, I'm behind everybody else. I'm hiking slow. Like I can't ever keep up. I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. I'm like, wait a minute. Georgia, focus on where you want to be. Oh, that's right. And it just clicked. And I was like, this is living a focused, driven life. And that is where focused, driven life was bred, really, was out of changing and reframing my thought process so I could focus on the path that I wanted to be on. And now what I do is I make regular posts about focusing on how to rise above where you are, focusing on efficiency and communication, and focusing on finding ways to help myself and others live a life where they are focused on where they want to be and they are driving forward to get what they want. Next week, I'm going to talk a little bit more on who am I? Who is Georgia Davis? A little bit more about my history and where I came from and how I became the person that I am. I may have another title connected to that, but I would love to have you continue this journey with me. If you are interested in working with me, please drop a clarity in the comments below. We'll set up a clarity in you session where we put together a little bit of a game plan. It's about 30 to 45 minutes long, up to, in some cases, 90 minutes, because it's really about identifying where you are and where you want to be. I love these sessions because they're so enriching in helping create a plan for those that I work with. I've also got a mini coaching offer that I'm running in March where we have 3 different sessions that we meet. Those are all very tailored to you, finding your purpose, finding where you want to be and where you want to go, and creating a plan for you in a little bit more detail, where we will be meeting a one-on-one. The Clarity in You session is complimentary, so there's no charge for that one. We can talk a little bit more about how I can help you and where you can go with where you want to be in your life, and just really help you nail down a plan that's going to be the most effective for you. Thank you so much for joining me. I will look forward to seeing you next Tuesday, 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And we're going to do just a quick breathing exercises. We're going to take 5 deep breaths to really get centered and connected with ourselves today. As we breathe, I want you to be focusing on one thing that you want to accomplish today. And then, of course, as you exhale, always exhale that negative energy. All right, here we go. 5 deep breaths. I'm going to have you start with 2 natural breaths, and then we'll have 3 dedicated breaths. 4 count in, 4 count hold, 4 count out. Let's go. All right, we're gonna start those 4 count breaths, 4 counts in, 4 count hold, 4 count out. Ready? And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and hold. 3, 2, 1, and exhale. And 4 count in, and hold. 3, 2, 1, and exhale. And breathe in. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 3, 2, 1, and exhale. Excuse me. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll have the replay up soon. Make your Tuesday amazing.